The skyline is gone. Street signs are melted slag. Your phone is a brick of dead glass. But the sun still rises in the east and sets in the west, because physics doesn't get bombed. That's your first lifeline. The sun moves in a predictable arc across the sky, south to north at solar noon if you're in the northern hemisphere. And that arc is a compass you can't lose, unless the smoke is so thick you're suffocating anyway. Here's how you use it. Drive a stick into the ground. Mark where the shadow tip falls. Wait 15 minutes. Mark the new shadow tip. Draw a line between the two marks. That line runs east to west. First mark is west. Second is east. You've just built a compass out of trash and patience. Got an analog watch? Point the hour hand at the sun. The angle halfway between the hour hand and 12 o'clock points south. No watch? The sun is roughly southeast at 9 a.m. Due south at noon. Southwest at 3 p.m. At night, find Polaris. Locate the Big Dipper. Follow the two stars on the dipper's edge upward, about 5 times that distance. That's the North Star. It doesn't move. Everything else spins around it. Walk toward it, you're going north. Turn around, you're going south. But this only works if you can see sky through the smoke. If the ash cloud is biblical, you're blind. So you stop navigating with your eyes and start reading the corpse of the city itself. Cities are built on grids because chaos costs money. Most American cities run their streets cardinal north-south and east-west. Even when the buildings are rubble, the streets remember. Find any street that hasn't been swallowed by a crater, and it points you true. Look down. Water flows downhill, always. Storm drains, gutters, streams of runoff cutting through debris. They all lead to rivers or low ground. Follow the flow, and you're tracking gravity's map to the valley floor where water collects and humans used to gather. Power lines work the same way. Even when they're down, tangled in wreckage, the poles and towers ran linear paths between substations and neighborhoods. Trace the line of destruction, and you're tracing the energy grid that connected the city's bones. Train tracks and highways are even better. Interstates run no directions. I-95 goes north-south along the east coast. I-10 cuts east-west across the south. Find an overpass half-collapsed, and you've found a directional monument. Subway tunnels survive bombing better than surface streets. Go underground if you can stomach it. The tunnels still follow the grid, still point where the city planners decided 80 years ago. Urban design is logic, frozen in concrete and steel. And even when the concrete cracks, the logic stays. Cities don't die randomly. They die along the same lines they were born on. Read the skeleton, and you'll know which way to walk. When you can't see the sun or read the streets, you navigate with dead reckoning. That's counting steps, estimating distance, and tracking every turn you make. The problem is, humans are terrible at this. Most people veer right, because left-side muscle dominance creates a rightward drift you don't notice until you've walked a full circle and died where you started. Here's the fix. Count your steps in hundreds. Every 100 steps, stack debris as a marker so you know where you've been. Your pace count matters. Measure your stride before you need it. Most people cover about 2,000 steps per mile on flat ground. In rubble, cut that to 2,500 or 3,000 steps per mile because you're climbing, detouring, slowing down. Track it. When you turn, estimate the angle. A right angle is 90 degrees. Your body is a protractor. Outstretched arms span roughly 180 degrees, so half that is a right turn. Time correlates to distance. Moving through destroyed cityscape, you're doing 1 to 2 miles per hour at best. Factor in exhaustion, obstacles, caution. 3 hours of movement might only get you 4 miles. Log it mentally. You will be wrong. Your estimates will drift. But wrong with data beats blind stumbling. Dead reckoning isn't about precision. It's about not walking in circles until you collapse. Your body lies, but if you force it to keep records, the lies average out into something close to truth. Explosions follow physics, and physics leaves a signature you can read. Debris falls away from the blast center. Building facades peel outward. Every destroyed structure points away from what killed it, like a giant arrow made of concrete and rebar. Find the lean. Walk through the wreckage and look at how walls collapsed, which direction windows blew, where the heaviest rubble landed. It all radiates outward from ground zero. Scorch patterns tell you proximity. Deep charring and heat shadows mean the blast was close, maybe within 100 feet. Light scorching, or just dust coating, means you're farther out, 200 to 500 feet from the epicenter. Check the windows. If they blew inward, the blast came from outside that building. If they blew outward, the explosion was inside or very close. Craters are even better. A deep crater with a raised rim means a ground burst, probably heavy ordnance. Shallow cratering means an airburst. The shape and depth tell you the yield and the exact spot it detonated. If you see 3 or 4 destruction centers in different directions, you can triangulate your position relative to each one. They bombed infrastructure first. Power plants, water treatment, bridges, command centers. Find the gaps in the grid, and you know what used to be critical. Even destruction has grammar. Learn to read it, and the violence becomes a map written in rubble and ash. Water flows to the lowest point always. Gravity doesn't negotiate. Find any trickle, any stream cutting through debris, and follow it downstream. It leads to rivers, coastlines, valleys, places where the terrain bottoms out, and humans used to gather because civilization needs water, like lungs need air. Lost? Find water flowing and walk with it. You'll hit something. Sewer systems and storm drains work the same way. Even bombed to hell, they remember the direction toward treatment plants. And treatment plants sit near major water sources. Trace the pipes, and you're tracing the city's circulatory system to its heart. Water towers and reservoirs are topographical landmarks. They're built on high ground for pressure, 100 to 200 feet of elevation above the neighborhoods they served. Bombed or intact, they mark the hills. Humidity tells you proximity. Air gets noticeably damper within half a mile of rivers or large bodies of water. Your skin knows it. Fabric absorbs it. Pay attention. Vegetation survives in strange patches where underground water still feeds roots. Green in the gray wasteland means aquifer access, and that means landmark stability. Humans have built near water for 200,000 years. Rivers, lakes, coastlines, that's where the settlements were, where the survivors will regroup, where supply lines will try to reestablish. The dead city's heart is where the water still runs. Follow it, and you're following the path back to whatever's left of the living world. Weather patterns don't die with cities. Most U.S. regions have prevailing winds, west to east across the continent, north to south in winter storms, south to north in summer. The wind direction hasn't changed just because the buildings fell. Smoke rises, then bends with the wind. Track the plume, and you know where you stand relative to fires still burning. A plume bending east means the wind is pushing west to east, and you can orient yourself accordingly. Wind also carries data. Burning rubber smells like vehicle fires. Chemical stench means industrial zones. Wood smoke means residential areas. Your nose is a zoning map if you pay attention. The wind tells you which direction those sources sit. Temperature gradients mark elevation. Valleys trap cold air at night. Ridges get wind and stay warmer. If you feel a 10 to 15 degree Fahrenheit drop as you descend, you're moving into a depression. Your skin is an altimeter. Pressure changes hit your ears. Ascending 1,000 feet makes your ears pop from pressure drop. Descending does the opposite. If you're navigating blind through smoke and your ears pop, you're climbing or dropping fast enough to matter. 500 to 1,000 feet of elevation change. You can't see the map, but the atmosphere remembers the topography. The air moves over hills and through valleys the same way it did before the bombs. Read it, and you're navigating terrain you can't even see. Stress makes humans walk in circles. The rightward veer you can't feel combines with panic, and you spiral into a death loop, covering the same ground until exhaustion kills you. The fix is forced linearity. Pick a landmark 100 feet ahead, a pile of rubble, a destroyed car, anything distinct. Walk to it. Stop. Pick the next landmark 100 feet out. Repeat. Never deviate. Your brain will try to shortcut, to angle off because it thinks it sees something familiar. Don't listen. Confirmation bias is a killer in ruined cities. Your brain sees what it wants. Every collapsed building becomes the hospital you're looking for. Every intersection looks like the one near your apartment. You'll convince yourself you've found it when you haven't. Verify 3 features before you believe it. Shape, position relative to other structures, and a unique detail like a sign or architectural element. 2 matches aren't enough. Decision fatigue is worse. Every fork in the path, every choice about which street to take, it drains you. 10 decisions, and your brain starts freezing, and frozen means standing still until you die of exposure or thirst. The solution is direction beats destination. Moving wrong is better than stopping right. Pick a cardinal direction, commit, and walk. You can correct later. You can't correct if you're dead from indecision. Memory Palace technique helps with route recall. Assign destroyed landmarks, bizarre mental images. The exploded gas station becomes a dragon corpse. You'll remember it. Panic is a luxury for people who aren't navigating corpse cities. You don't have that luxury. Every morning you run the checklist. Sun position, wind direction, water flow direction, last known heading. Write it in the ash if you have to. This is your orientation baseline, and you rebuild it every single day because memory fails when you're exhausted and dehydrated. Mark where you've been. Stack rubble into cairns every 200 feet. Use chalk, spray paint, anything that leaves a trail. This prevents looping, which is how most people die lost. They circle back without knowing it and waste calories walking the same grid until their legs stop working. Count steps in hundreds. Log distance mentally. After 2,000 steps, you've covered roughly a mile in rubble. Track it. Your pace count is data, and data keeps you alive. Always have 3 ways to orient. If the sun disappears into smoke, you fall back on wind direction. If wind dies, you use water flow. If water's dry, you read blast patterns and infrastructure. Redundancy is survival. Move smart. Stay off ridgelines where you're visible. Avoid bottlenecks like collapsed overpasses that funnel you into choke points. Move in shadows when possible. Navigate toward defendable positions, high ground with water access, and multiple escape routes. You're not wandering. You're executing a plan built from physics, biology, and the refusal to die lost. The city died, but geometry doesn't. The landmarks burned, but the sun still rises. You're not lost. You never were. You're just reading a map written in shadows, water, and blast patterns, so you move with purpose through the ash. No GPS, no signs, just you and the math, and that's enough.